dropped a bomb somewhere, contaminating atmosphere and blackening the sky. It's Good News Week. Someone's found a way to give the rotting dead a will to live, go on and never die. Have you heard the news? What did it say? Who's won that race? What's the weather like today? It's Good News Week.
Well, good evening, everyone. I know people are still coming in, but we have to start because I want to say a big welcome, not just of those of you who are here in the room, but there are people. I want to say a big welcome to Joe and Chris in Chicago. I want to say a big welcome to my friend Jerry, who's from Bermuda, but in London right now. I want to say a big welcome to Ron and Melissa, who are listening in North Carolina, watching in North Carolina. And anyone else who's joining us online for this evening's Good News Week gathering. And the whole thing about this Good News Week is that it is good news. It's the gospel. The gospel means good news. So I would just like you to leave outside all the worries, all the anxieties, all the cares that you might have. And for this next couple of hours, let's just focus on the good news, which is brought to us through Jesus Christ. Now tonight, I'm thrilled that we've got my good friend, Marianne Brown, and she's here with her husband and another, I forgot your name. Michaela, who's soon to be part of that family. So, Michaela, you're very welcome too. So, Mariam and I are going to do a little question and answer session. She's going to tell you all about her life story thus far. We've got Rob Halligan here, my good friend. Rob is, he was described once on the BBC as Bruce Springsteen having English tea with Billy Bragg. He's also been compared to Neil Diamond, Martin Joseph, John Mayer. Good company. But I love Rob. He's a great musician. He brings great songs. He has a great story to tell as well. And we'll hear something about that as he goes through his repertoire with us tonight. So without further ado, I would now like you to give a big warm welcome to Mariam as she comes to join me on the stage. Now, I've heard some of this before. Some of you may have heard some of it before, but many of you will not have heard any of this. And Mariam, she was born in Iraq. She's an Assyrian, and she'll tell you what that means. And when she was just 4 years old, the first Gulf War happened while Saddam Hussein was in power. So, Mariam, I've just said, you know, you're born in Iraq. Saddam Hussein was in control. But tell us a bit about your early childhood, living in Iraq under that kind of regime as an Assyrian.
Yeah, so Assyrians, they're the indigenous people of the country of Iraq. But when I was growing up, we were the minority.
Yeah.
We were the religious minority, that's for sure. So, yeah, we were Assyrian. I was one of 4 children. My mum and dad. My dad was a pretty successful civil engineer. So he had a great job. My mum stayed at home to raise the kids, and it was amazing. But we had, up until that point, from me being born till the age of 4, things were okay. But I know that my family had experienced a lot of issues being a minority in the predominantly Islamic country, being Christian. So they've shared different things that they've experienced. That's...
So it would kind of be a normal sort of childhood as we would imagine it. So you, at 4 years old, you wouldn't really have known too much about, you know, the politics or the leadership or the struggles that your parents were facing. And maybe you can tell us a bit about that in due course. But when the first Gulf War happened and you had to escape. Tell us a little bit about what happened to you and what happened to your dad at that time.
Yeah, so like I said, my dad was a civil engineer. So he worked for the Department of Roads and Bridges in Iraq. And he was, when the Gulf War began, he was called on by the Iraqi government to be part of building trenches for the Iraqi military. But my dad did not want to be a part of that. He didn't want to be involved in that. And so he denied the request. And as a result of that, he knew that there would be a target on him. And that would have meant either jail or execution, because that was the kind of regime that Saddam Hussein had. You know, if you go against the government's requests, that's what would happen. And so because that was the potential of what could happen to him and to the family, he knew that we had no choice but to leave, but to escape. And so that's what we did. We grabbed what we could carry. There was, like I said, 4 of us children. I was 4 years old at the time. My oldest brother was 9.
Right.
And my little sister was 1. And I had another brother who was a year older than me.
Yeah.
And my parents just carried us, and we went on foot on about a 2-day journey.
So was this before the actual war broke out? Because, you know, all we know on this side of the world was that Saddam Hussein was accused of developing weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah.
So he was a major threat to the world. Maybe it was an excuse for the Americans and their allies to invade and take him out.
This was when Saddam Hussein was invading Kuwait.
Yeah.
Really, we were forced out by our own government, really, at that point.
Okay. Yeah.
So we left, and we went on a awful journey of trying to get to the nearest border from where we were, which would have been the Turkish border.
And how far would that be? What sort of journey time or length?
Well, we traveled for 2 days.
Right.
2 days on foot.
Okay.
Because we were in the northern part of Iraq, so it wasn't, you know, it was quite close to the border, but again, we were just on foot. And the conditions were absolutely horrendous. It was the end of winter. So the areas we were walking through were covered in snow. The mountains we had to go up and down were covered in snow. And there was a couple of families that made the journey with us. I'm not sure exactly why they were there at that point, but there were families with us at that point. Yeah. But so many things happened on that journey, and I know I need a whole book to explain all the little moments that happened on that trip. The fear, the anxiety, not having enough to eat, people just, I mean, I'll explain more what happens afterwards, but there's a moment where we finally reached the Turkish border, and we thought, we've made it here, and we're about to cross over, we're about to get into some sort of a safe place, a refuge. But something very intense happens at this moment, and we do have a little video clip, if we could play. So this little video clip is my dad and we sat down a while back and we filmed his testimony, and he shares a little bit of a moment of that first moment where we finally arrived at the Turkish border, and we can watch that now.
Found a place where there was no snow, and we started fire to just warm ourselves. The Turkish military were watching, and found ourselves surrounded by a squadron of military, and they point guns on us, start speaking in the speaker, telling us to pack up and return back, or otherwise we will shoot you. That's what he said. He said, if you don't go back, we will shoot you. So I as I said, walking hours and hours, and we were tired. Something I was thinking that it will be impossible for me with 4 kids to go back again. So they thought I was, stubborn. I didn't want to go back. So they put their gun on my forehead. I'm looking at him, and when he pointed the gun on my forehead, he pushed the gun on my forehead, and his finger was on the trigger. Yeah. So he was about to shoot me. And then one of them, you start crying because you saw me at that situation. Yeah. So you start crying. Dad, in Assyrian, Bobby, Bobby. So they knew she was my daughter. So one of them grabbed you and he held you up, and the other one put the gun pointing on you. So that was when I lost everything. I put her down. Tell me, don't do anything to her. So I took you, I put you here, start walking. When we started walking, they start shooting over us. Shooting bullets. I saw bullets on the other side because we were walking, and I saw bullets on the other sides hitting the stones. That was first trip.
Wow. That must have been a terrifying experience, but so if I'm understanding it correctly, because of the threats, the death threats that you were facing, you had to turn around and go back.
Yes.
So you did the 2-day walk back home?
We had to go all the way back home.
Right.
We went all the way back home, and my mum said to me that in that moment when she arrived back home, she said to my dad, I am never doing that again. She said, I don't care if I die here in Iraq, in this place. I am not making that trip again. About less than 2 weeks later, the war got worse. That's when the war was official, and everything was happening, and our street was directly affected.
Yeah.
A house just down the street was bombed.
Yeah.
And again, what do?
Yeah.
You've just made that journey, but now your actual street is being bombed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard for us to imagine, living in a country like ours where for the last 60 years or so we've lived in relative safety. You would never expect that. And our vision of what it's like in the Middle East is to see all these devastated, bombed, houses and buildings, rubble everywhere. But before all this happened, you lived in quite a normal, nice street.
We did, yeah.
So it could happen to any one of us at any time.
Like I said, my dad was successful. We had a lovely house.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think that would happen. You would never expect it.
Yeah.
We had a nice childhood, and then it just happened.
Yeah.
It just suddenly happened.
So despite your mum's concerns, you then had to make the journey again.
Yeah.
The house down the road has just been bombed, and yours could be next.
Yep.
It's completely unsafe, so you decide that you've got to give it another go. So
that's what happened. Yeah. We didn't even have time to think, to be honest. Everyone in the street had left, and night had fallen, and the whole street was empty, and it was just our family and one other family across the road that hadn't left yet.
Right.
And my dad said, we need to leave now. We need to go right now. And so we did it again. We got what we could. My dad said the only food that he had on him was a bag of almonds and a bag of raisins. And he'd put it in his pocket, and he said, as we were traveling, he would just give us a couple of almonds and a couple of raisins just to keep us going. and my little sister was 1. She just had baby formula, so that's,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's what she had. But we made the journey again, the same journey, same conditions, and it was awful. But I've got to say that there were miracles that happened along the way. And, my family were Christians, but I would say that they had the Christian title. They knew who God was. They had the religious traditions. They followed all the Christian traditions.
Yeah.
But they didn't know God. They
Yeah.
didn't know who he was personally.
Yeah, they didn't have a personal relationship with Jesus.
They didn't have a
Right.
personal relationship with
Okay.
Jesus.
Yeah. So they are Christians by name
Yeah.
and by tradition.
Mm-hmm.
Still difficult, I would have thought, as a minority
Yeah.
in a largely, Muslim Islamic country.
Yeah.
But now you've got back to the border
Mm-hmm.
for the second time.
Yes.
So what happened then? I take it you actually did manage to get over the border this time?
Yeah,
What was the
so
story there?
it was, everybody fled at this point. Like, I think it said, from after I've read about it, it said about 2 to 3 million people were displaced. Refugees just left Iraq.
Yeah.
And so if you've ever seen a Exodus film of Moses and you see the line of people just traveling with their families, that's what it looked like.
Right.
I wish I had a picture of it, because
Yeah.
that's what it looked like, just a trail of people traveling all the way. And we again arrived to the border of Turkey, but this time United Nations was involved, and they were going to start letting people come across into Turkey, into a refugee camp.
Right. Yeah.
But we had to wait kind of on the border area, I think for about a week, just kind of waiting for them to set this thing up and to get things ready.
Yeah.
So there was millions of people just crowded in this area outside the border, waiting for them to let us across.
And what did you do for sort of food and shelter and, sanitary facilities? I mean, what
There
was those
wasn't,
conditions? Right.
like some people had food, and it's kind of, you can imagine, some people had food and people were trading things, and we had a blanket, and that's all we had. So we were covering ourselves with a blanket.
So you didn't have
every
a
night.
tent or anything?
No,
just a
not at that
blanket?
point. There was no tents.
Right.
We just had this huge blanket. And so the 6 of us, because we were a family of 6, we would all just sit under the blanket.
Wow.
To shelter ourselves if it was raining, and it did rain a few times.
Right.
I don't know how we got food, but there would have been something at that point to sustain us.
So there was the miracle, right?
That
There
was
the
one
feeding
of
the 5,000 with
yes,
the 5 loaves and
exactly,
fishes. Yeah.
exactly.
Right.
So that was a miracle in itself. And then eventually they started to let people cross over and into the refugee camp. I think there was 2 or 3 refugee camps set up, and we were in the biggest one that was set up.
So you've now managed to get into this refugee camp, where I would imagine conditions are still not very good.
Yeah, that's the picture there.
Right. There's a picture.
Yeah. So these 2 pictures are of people at the refugee camp, and some of them are family members.
Right.
Actually, that's me at the front, running across.
Running across.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was in the other picture as well.
Yeah. And you spent, what, a year in the refugee camp?
15 months.
15 months.
15 months in a tent.
Right.
So you would have seen in the previous picture the tent behind us. That's what we lived in for 15 months.
Wow.
And I honestly don't really have much of a memory of what happened, the escape and living in the camp.
Yeah.
But I do have little moments that come to mind. Like, I remember the ground. I remember that ground. And I remember running around with the children, probably being unaware of how serious the conditions were and how dire they were. But I remember laughing and running around. In the midst of that, I remember, we'd play games up and down on that ground as children.
Yeah. Well, I guess as children at that age, you wouldn't appreciate the enormity of what was going on.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, so you spent 15 months in this refugee camp, and you're still a very young child. Your parents are obviously trying to find a way out
Yeah.
So what happened? And you ended up in Australia, I believe. So
Yes.
how did that come about?
So after 15 months, several different countries were granting visas for refugees into their countries. And my dad wanted to go to Australia. I don't know why,
Right.
but he had Australia on his heart. And people were kind of offered places and they just took what they got. But he just had his heart set on Australia. And so he said he went to the consulate that was there and he said, if there's any way, can we please go to Australia? And he said, and the man said to him, yep, that's fine, but you've got to pay your own flights, you've got to pay for your medical examinations. My dad had, I don't know what the currency was he had in his pocket, but he said 100. It was 100 dinar or dollars, I don't know what he had.
Yeah.
And he said to the man, you're giving me a refugee status in Australia, you're granting me the visa, but you're asking me to pay for the flights and for the medical examinations for a family of 6. How can I do that? How can I possibly do that? You know? And so, but my dad, he didn't give up. He didn't give up. And the man said, here's the application form if you want to fill it in. So my dad went back to the tent and he said to my mum, and my mum knew he was having this conversation. And my dad wasn't really a faithful man at this point, you know. And he said to my mum, I'm afraid we've been given refugee status in Australia. And this is before he'd even filled in the form. And she's like, what? Why? He's like, I believe God's going to do this.
Yeah.
You know, and he had no faith really at that point. He said, I believe God's going to do this.
Wow.
And he filled it in and he gave it back. And he said to the consulate, please look at this application. We can't afford to go there, but I'm trusting this with you.
Yeah.
And a couple of weeks later, maybe it was a month, I can't remember how long later, it came back. And he called my dad back into the area that he was in. And he took out his stamp and he stamped it in front of him and it said approved. And he just stamped it and he said, you're going, you don't have to pay for it.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's amazing.
See, so already we're seeing how God had his hand in your lives. He was taking care of you despite the difficulty, despite the circumstances.
Yeah.
And he gave your dad his wish.
Yeah,
right?
he did.
His prayer was, get me to Australia with my family. So God did that. You're in Australia.
Yes.
And we're going to bring this first session to a close shortly, but just take us through to the early years as you grew up and went through school in Australia.
So I was 5 when we arrived in Australia, and there was 4 of us children at that point, but my younger sister comes along later, another sister. But again, it was like learning everything from scratch. We didn't know the language. We didn't know the culture. We didn't know anything about the place. But again, another miracle. We had a family who had sponsored us before we'd arrived, who'd decided to sponsor us. And they had 4 children as well.
Wow.
You know, they were a family of 6, and we were a family of 6. And the children were 2 boys and 2 girls, just like us, and they were very similar ages.
Wow.
And so when we got to Australia, they met us at the airport, and they took us to this house that they'd set up for us, that had it ready.
Yeah.
And this is a moment that really, really gets me. My mum says that when she walked into that house, it was a very simple house, very simple. It didn't have anything about it. It was just a house, you know, and it had basic things in there, basic necessities. And she said after the family had left, she said she went into her room. Again, they're not believers. They know God, but they don't know him personally.
Yeah.
She said she went into the bedroom and she kneeled down on the floor and she cried and she thanked God because she said she felt like a queen, like she'd just walked into a palace, given the conditions and where we'd come from for the last 15 months.
Yeah.
And she thanked God in that moment.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And I'll never forget. That's a part of the story I never, ever forget.
Yeah.
And then, I grew up in Australia, and we moved from Tasmania because we arrived in Tasmania initially.
Right.
But then we later on moved to Melbourne, Victoria, because a couple of our family were in Victoria. at that point. So
Right.
we just wanted to be closer to them, so we
Yeah.
moved there.
Okay. Okay, so you found yourself this family who sponsored you, have a similar demographic,
Yeah.
and I assume that you all got along well,
Yes.
and you kind of grew up together.
Grew up together, did everything
went
together.
to school together,
Yep.
and so I guess despite everything that happened up until you were 5, until you got to Australia, you did have a happy childhood. But I'm interested to know about your parents' faith during this period. Yeah, because I assume that you weren't a professing
No.
Christian at the time.
No.
As you're growing up there. What was the situation with your parents? What was their faith journey like? Yeah.
So, like I said before, they called themselves Christians, but I don't think they understood what it meant to be a follower of Jesus, what it meant to be a Christ follower, because it's very different to say that you're a Christian and to live your life following Christ. And when we moved to Victoria in Melbourne, my auntie was already there before us. Well, it's my dad's auntie, my mum's auntie. And she'd been recently born again. She'd been saved.
Right.
And she was attending this church, and she said to my parents, come along to church, just come along. And my dad was like, no, it's not for me, kind of thing. And my mum was desperate to go, but he was like, no, it's not for me. Right. And she didn't give up. She kept asking, every Sunday she'd keep saying, you can come along today if you like. And so my parents thought, you know what, that's fine. We'll just go. We'll give it a go. And they attended this church service. And on the very first day that they attended, they were both hit with the gospel, and they both received Christ at that service together at the same time.
Yeah.
And I was 10 years old at that time.
Right.
So from that moment on, when I was 10, I started to be taught, the truth.
So even though you're just 10 years old, did you see the change? Did you notice any significant changes?
Looking back, I can see the differences. Just in my dad, he was, a certain way, and then his ways started to change. The way he would talk, and the way he'd even speak to us and to my mom even started to change, and certain habits that he had just stopped instantly. There's lots of things I saw in him change, and so that was very evident to me. Yeah. Because I saw that change in him.
All right. So then, when you get to, do you leave school at 16 in Australia? 18.
Yep.
So you're in school through to 18.
Yes.
And was there any moment in that 10 to 18-year-old period where you made a profession of faith, or did that come later? What was your journey just in that short period?
Yeah.
So we'll draw close when you get to 18.
Okay.
And then in the second part, we'll take it on from there.
Well, basically from the age of 10 until the age of 18, well, 10 I was still quite young, but when I got to my teenage years, I wanted nothing to do with the faith. I wanted nothing to do with Christianity because I started to experience the world, and I started to see things, and I thought, well, I can't be a Christian, and I can't have one foot in and one foot out, so I'm just going to abandon that. Yeah. But deep down inside, I always knew the truth. I always knew everything that my parents had taught me and what they believed, and I knew who God was. I knew who Jesus was. I knew he was the Son of God. I knew he'd died for our sins. And, all those core things were already instilled in me. But the rebellion kicked in. I had this rebellion. Some people might not believe this. If you know me, you'll think there's no way. But I was quite rebellious. I was a very rebellious teenager. I did the opposite of everything my parents would ask and want of me. And I did it on purpose, just to be spiteful. Wow. And so I had a very rebellious teenage life, going just after 18 and onwards.
So you were a proper rebel.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can believe it. Just from what Curtis has told me. Right. All right, Mariam, I just want to thank you for that. That's kind of the first part, and you'll come back later on, and we'll bring things up to date from there. So I'm really looking forward to hearing the rest of the story. But for now, if you want to take a seat with your husband, and if you could give Mariam a big round of applause for that. Thank you. Okay, so now I want to invite to the stage my good friend Rob Halligan. I don't know how long I've known you, Rob. Yes, give him a big round of applause. I don't know. Take a seat, Rob. Yeah. I can't remember when we first met.
Hang on,
but
let me get this.
yeah.
Can you tell I'm a professional?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. 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 So, as you know, I'm a very proficient guitar player myself now. Can't believe they laughed at that. I've recently written a song as well, but that's for another time. But yeah, it's great to have you with us. I've always enjoyed your music, your performances, live performances are always uplifting, shall we say. So I love what you do. So I'm delighted that you've agreed to be here with us tonight. But I see that you've got 3 guitars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I wonder, why have you got 3 guitars? Do you want to tell us about this one?
Because we are heading back to Coventry tonight, and we've picked up my daughter, who is coming back with us, and if I bought any more guitars, she wouldn't have fit in. That's why I've only got 3.
That's why you've only got 3. Yeah, okay. Yeah, beautiful guitar. This is a Taylor and a tuned, standard tuning?
Yeah, so this is a standard tuned guitar. This is Clive.
Okay, Clive.
Yeah. And,
is there a story as to why you call him Clive?
Well, actually, I called him Clive. I think we were just coming out of lockdown, and I did a concert in Cambridge, and there is a guy who we've known for years who's been coming to concerts and supporting what I do, seeing it as, I don't know, just appreciating what, the touring and stuff that I do, which is quite, I don't know, I get quite, wow, people actually like this. It's lovely when people do that. And Clive went through a lot of stuff over lockdown, and I just got this guitar, and he invited us to his house to do a house concert. And this guitar didn't have a name, and I sort of, halfway through the concert, I said, "This is my new guitar. It hasn't got a name yet. What should I call it?" And straight away, I thought, I've got to call it Clive. So there you go. So that was really nice, and it really blessed him. So that was nice. And standard tune guitar, kind of guitar I learnt on.
Right. Okay.
Except the one that I learnt on wasn't as nice as this.
Yeah. Wow.
And I learnt guitar. I first picked up a guitar when I must have been about 11 years old. I was involved in a car accident. I was on my push bike, and I got hit by a car, and my leg was smashed up quite badly, and I ended up in hospital for about 6 months with my leg up in one of those traction things, and it was really boring. My mum decided to get me a guitar, and so she bought me a guitar, and she bought me a book, Bert Wheaton's guitar, Tune a Day. Does anybody here play guitar or anything? Yeah, a few. Anybody here ever heard of Bert Wheaton?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you learnt 3 chords, and you could play absolutely any song with 3 chords. It was fantastic, and the nurses hated my mum because I came out of hospital, and we'd kind of changed. I was at that age where we changed schools, so I was going up to senior school, and my kind of home life, my family life was all a little bit all over the place. My parents had split up, and my dad had remarried twice, and my mum had remarried and then divorced and had, it was all pretty chaotic. And going into a new school, having not been in school for nearly a year, I just couldn't get into it. I was one of these kids that went to, I was put in the special unit at school to do other work and that, because I was just disruptive in lessons and all that. And we had a brilliant teacher who said, well, why don't you go, and rather than causing trouble in a lunch break and everything, why don't you go to the music block and play on the instruments there? So I did, and there was a few of us in there, and we started a band. and we were called the Freak Brothers. And we were rubbish, but it was great because this was kind of in the 80s, and it was all kind of Duran Duran and Kajagoogoo and all that kind of stuff, and we hated all that.
Yeah.
And the drummer in our band, his dad was an old teddy boy, and he introduced us to rock and roll.
Right.
Which was great because rock and roll you can do with 3 chords, which is what we knew, you know. So we learnt things like Bee-bop-a-lula, she's my baby. Bee-bop-a-lula, I don't mean maybe. Bee-bop-a-lula, she's my baby. You know, really deep lyrics, don't you think?
Yeah.
You know.
Class.
If you ever want to, that's how you write a song.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You know.
Well, my song's got 4 chords.
4 chords.
So there.
Well, here's the thing. We wanted to be guitar gods. You know what I mean? We
Yeah.
wanted to stand on stage and do the thing.
Yeah.
And Buddy Holly kind of helped us. So we did we learned things like if you knew Peggy Sue with a love so rare and true, oh Peggy, my Peggy Sue, oh, well I love you girl and I want you Peggy Sue, and the guitar break went like this. It was just 3 chords. I see you watching that, you see.
I'm watching,
You're
yeah.
really
I'm
carefully
learning.
watching.
I'm
Watch
learning.
it. He's going to throw that into a song at some point. But Buddy Holly then, he throws a curveball in, and he, you know, in the middle bit, he introduces a 4th chord.
Wow.
F.
That's hard.
Yeah.
F's hard.
It's a horrible chord.
Yeah.
But, Peggy Sue, Peggy Sue. Pretty Peggy Sue. Oh, see what I mean?
Yeah. That was faster than I can do it.
Yeah. You had to think about it.
Yeah.
So, you know, so we did that, and our band, we were thinking, yes, we're going to do this. And I grew up in Worthing. Anybody been to Worthing? Yeah, it's a great place to come from. It's that kind of place. And when I was a kid, you know, Worthing, this is true, Worthing had the highest percentage of old age pensioners in it anywhere in the south coast, anywhere along the south of England. So there was us, you know, kids, yay, and all these old people. And so we entered this talent contest, and we were up against an opera singer and a flautist. And there was us doing our kind of rock and roll punk thing, you know, and we lost. But we were invited to a studio to record. This guy he came up to us afterwards. He says, "Oh, I'd love to have you come and record in my studio." And he charged us £25 to record a song in this little upstairs room with mattresses up against the window. Yeah. And so we chose this one, right? Okay. Yeah. Some people say a man is made out of mud. A poor man's made out of muscle and blood. Muscle and blood, skin and bone. It takes a mind that's weak and a bag that's strong. You load 16 tons, and what do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt. Saying, Peter, don't you call me, 'cause I can't go. I own. Yeah. But the thing is, you see, when I sing songs, I mean, I don't know. I like to sing songs and people really believe what I'm singing, you know. I think there needs to be a conviction when you sing a song, and it needs to be heartfelt, yeah?
Yeah.
There was a problem with this song. We were 12 years old. Our voices hadn't broken. And the last verse was like, if you see me coming, better step aside. A lot of men didn't, a lot of men died. I got one fist of iron, the other of steel. And if the right one doesn't get you, then the left one will. it kind of, it really sort of didn't work.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I know what you mean. And I'll be watching this back and focusing on the chords. So I'll be performing, people, right? One day soon, you'll be hearing that from me. Anyway, Rob, it's nice to hear Clyde.
Yeah. Clive.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just said to see if you're listening. But you've got two other guitars. And I'm interested to know what part the guitars actually play in your faith journey.
Yeah. So if I go to this one, right? This is Jenny.
Jenny.
Yeah.
Clive and Jenny. Okay.
Yeah. And again, Jenny, a really good friend of ours, and this isn't a guitar. This is a gazook.
A gazook.
And if you've ever heard of a bouzouki, which is like a Greek instrument, it's kind of like a triangular body. This is like a mishmash of a guitar and the bouzouki.
Right.
So one of the things that, I mean, I've been, when I talk about my Christianity, if you like, my faith journey, I'm not the kind of person, I didn't have one of those Damascus Road experiences. I love it. I think it's amazing. When you were talking about your parents and they were hit with the gospel and they made a decision, I almost envy people that have that kind of stuff. Because for me, I started my faith journey, my sort of walk with God, my journey with Jesus about 30 odd years ago. And it's been brilliant, but it's been very gradual. And it isn't, and I realize that there are a lot of people like me who have been Christians for a long, long time, and they didn't have that thunderbolt. They didn't have that lightning strike in their lives. And for me, what happened, like I said, the family was kind of a bit all over the place, and I started getting into trouble. I was into a band called the Ramones. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Ramones. They had a brilliant film called Rock and Roll High School. Actually, it wasn't brilliant, but we thought it was brilliant. And at the end of the film, they blew the school up, and we thought, hey. And so. That was the first thing. No, I didn't blow the school up, but I did set fire to the school toilets and got into a lot of trouble for that. And that was a start. That was the start of things really kind of going wrong. I got into trouble with the police for various things, of shoplifting and everything, and it progressed into aggravated burglary and various things like that. And at 15, I had a big argument with my mum, and she kicked me out, and I ended up living on the streets when I was 15. And we were in a squat for a while. Sorry, I was in a squat for a while, and then and to survive, we were kind of breaking into cars and nicking things out of cars and taking them down the second-hand shops and selling them. We were breaking into allotments and digging up potatoes from allotments to feed ourselves. And then one day the squat that I was in was raided, and they took us all in and everything, and things just went from bad to worse. And I ended up running away with a mate of mine, jumping bail and running away, and we made our way up to the Midlands, up to Northampton, where I bumped into some Christians who were just giving out free food basically, and I thought, free food, great. Didn't have anywhere to live. They gave me somewhere to stay, and I stayed with them for about 9 months for the first time. And it was during that time, I don't know, I was just a bit of a lad. I thought, this is easy, and I kind of trying to pull the wool over their eyes. I gave them false name and everything. Eventually, they kind of sussed out that I was lying, and they found out a bit more about me. And then they drove me back to Worthing and stood up in court for me and spoke, on my behalf, and the judge gave me one more chance if I stayed with these people that were looking after me, But I still didn't get the God thing, I was trying to trick him out of money and all sorts, and And you know, one of the things I think that really, the thing that really changed my life was the welcome that I got from them. Not just the initial welcome, but this kind of, I don't know, it's the first time I've ever experienced unconditional love, I suppose.
Yeah.
You know, it didn't matter that I was allowed off the streets, and it didn't matter what trouble I'd been in, and it didn't matter that I had been ripping them off and stealing from them, even when they were giving me a place to stay. You know, they just kept loving me and it was that patience. And and so this is a song of welcome, I suppose. This journey's long and the path can be hard on your feet. Beyond the horizon are promises that you can't see. And the hills are ablaze with the sunlight that's out of your reach. Oh, you're not alone. No, you're not alone. So come take your place at the table. Oh, come and let go of your cares. Come break the bread and come raise a glass. Oh, come for your place is prepared. And you'll find a door that's wide open, and you'll find a shelter from storm, and you'll find a heart as wide as the sky that welcomes you into the warm. When the warmth of the sun brings you memories of brighter days. Oh, and the trees whisper secrets passed on by the cold winds of change. When daylight is fading and home can seem so far away. Yeah, you're not alone. Oh, you're not alone. So come take your place at the table. Yeah, come and let go of your cares. Oh, come break the bread and come raise a glass. Oh, come for your place is prepared. And you'll find a door that's wide open, and you'll find a shelter from storm, and you'll find a heart as wide as the sky that welcomes you into the warm. Take off your pack, set it down as you come through the door. Take the weight off your feet, pull a chair up and enjoy the warmth. As we share the stories of places we've all been before. Oh, you're not alone. No, you're not alone. So come take your place at the table. Yeah, come and let go of your cares. Oh, come break the bread and come raise a glass. Oh, come for your place is prepared. And you'll find a door that's wide open, and you'll find a shelter from the storm, and you'll find a heart as wide as the sky that welcomes you into the warm. you.
Yeah.
Let's see this one.
You know, Rob, what you said there, you made that, you comment on the phrase unconditional love.
Yeah.
And that's what Jesus offers us, unconditional love. And there's nothing that you could have done that would prevent you from coming to him and being forgiven. And I love that. And certainly in this church here, we try to make everyone feel like they are welcome.
Yeah, yeah.
No matter what their status or background or history, then they're welcome because we want to introduce them to Jesus.
Yeah, yeah. There is a sound company, a PA company called Wigwam. I don't know if you've ever heard of Wigwam.
Yeah.
And it stands for, they're a Christian company. It stands for Without Invitation, God Welcomes All Men, which I really like.
Yeah.
Which I really like. And it was really interesting hearing your story as well, Marion, because the turning point, if you like, was the welcome, wasn't it? You know, when you're, you know, the different points in your life where you experience welcome, and if we are able to offer welcome, I think that's where change starts. You know, God welcomes us, and you know.
So that welcome that you received, that unconditional love that you experienced from people, that led you on further on your journey towards knowing Christ.
Yeah.
And we've heard from Clive and we've heard from Jenny. Who's this one?
So this is Bartholomew, and I did a gig in Morecambe, and there was a fabulous church just outside, just on the edge of Morecambe, called West End Impact, and they work with homeless and not just homeless people, but you know, people that are really struggling with life, basically. And amazing place of welcome, you know, and. Anyway, I was there and I was doing a concert for them, and I just got this guitar and it was its first gig, and I said, my new guitar hasn't got a name. What should I call it? And somebody said, call it Eric, because we were in Morecambe, and you see.
That's kind of lost on some of the younger
I know,
ones, right?
you see.
They don't
Has
understand.
anybody here?
Eric Morecambe was a great comedian, part of a duo, Morecambe and Wise, big on TV back in the 60s, 70s, and into the 80s. Anyway, that was Eric
They
Morecambe.
were fantastic.
Yeah, they were brilliant.
Really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
And I just thought, you know, Eric is a lovely name. Apologies to any Erics here, but I just thought it's not a guitar.
Yeah.
You know, well, you know, and so somebody else said, well, what about Bartholomew? So I thought, well, that works. So yeah, Bartholomew. But why? Why?
Yeah. Why Bartholomew?
Eric Morecambe's real name was Eric Bartholomew.
No, I didn't know that.
Go. You see, you come to my concerts,
Yeah.
and you learn stuff.
We're being educated. We're being educated as well, yeah.
You know.
Okay.
And actually, I will just say as well, I am a Christian, but the way that I write songs and the way that I communicate God's love, if that's the best way of saying it, and my faith. You know, I try and write songs that I can play in a church, but I can play equally as well and accessibly in a folk club or in a, you know, in any kind of situation, you know. And one of the things that I found is really, really powerful when I'm performing is the power of story, you know, and our stories. And, you know, I can tell my story about being in trouble with the police and living on the streets, and it all sounds really gritty, and people would think, you know, oh, I wish I had a testimony like that, or something. Or Miriam can tell her story, and it's an incredible story of God's faithfulness and love, but it is none of these stories are any more or less precious and powerful than your own story. You know, we're on this journey of life, and God, I believe, totally is with us all the way. And one of the sort of trips I've been on recently has been that, you know, I guess over the last few years, I've just been realizing that, you know, sometimes sometimes things don't get fixed, but that doesn't matter. It is the thing that changes, it's this welcome, but it's also this this staying with, just traveling the road together, staying with people through difficulties. That's how my life has changed over the years, by realizing that the stuff that I've gone through, some of it hasn't always been fixed, but there have always been people there beside me, walking with me, holding me up, and it's something that I've tried to do for other people as well. And it's those things that demonstrate this faithfulness, this love of God. I'm going to get all theological now, right? There is a Hebrew word, chesed. Have you heard this word? Chesed. Sorry? Yes, except it's translated over 120 times in different English versions of the Bible. And it's one of these words that you can't quite pinpoint. It means faithful love, everlasting love, covenant love. It means faithfulness. It means steadfastness. It's all of these things, right? And when Jesus says to the Pharisees in Matthew 9, he says, go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice. That word mercy, well, that quote comes from Hosea, and that word mercy is chesed. And I think this word chesed, what it's all about is this DNA, if you like. It's the character of God. It's the heart of what God's all about. And what Jesus says is, I just want you to be like me. I just want you to be like me in loving and accepting and welcoming unconditionally, not judging. I don't want you to go and sacrifice and tick all the boxes. I just want you to be like me, And so, back to guitars. Mm-hmm. From theology to guitars. This is tuned to open C.
Okay.
And so, if you're not interested in guitars, could you just go, oh, like you are interested? Is that right?
I can't promise to make it better. I can't say it'll be alright, but I promise you I'll hold you tonight. I can't say there won't be struggles. I can't say you'll win every fight, but I promise you I'll hold you tonight. Promise I will stand with you all the days that I have breath, and pour out my life for you until there is nothing left. And I will be your shelter and I'll be by your side. I promise I will hold you tonight. I can't say the storms will miss us. I can't say it'll turn out fine, but I promise you I'll hold you tonight. I can't say there won't be trouble, and I can't stop the fading light, but I promise you I'll hold you tonight. Promise that I'll stand with you all the days that I have breath, and pour out my life for you until there is nothing left. and I will be your shelter. I'll be by your side, and I promise I will hold you tonight. Promise that I'll stand with you all the days that I have breath. Pour out my life for you until there is nothing left. And I will be your shelter, and I'll be by your side. I promise I will hold you tonight. I can't say there won't be winters. I can't say that the cold won't bite. But I promise I'll hold you tonight.
Rob, I just want to thank you for that. So I realised that Clive's called Clive Taylor, and that's Bartholomew Martin.
Yeah, this is
Yeah,
Martin.
Bartholomew
Yeah.
Martin. And I love that last song. But it's just a privilege for me to be sitting so close, watching a great guitar player and a great singer. And obviously I'm picking up tips here, you know, for the future.
What have you learned?
Oh, that's tuned in C, open C. Can't play on open C. Yeah. What I plan to do now, Rob, I want to thank you for that. I've got one other question which you can either answer or not.
Yeah.
Because I've spent my whole working life in the insurance industry. And I know that your dad works in the insurance industry. I don't know what your relationship was with your father, but I know that he was one of the victims of the 9/11 Twin Towers.
Yeah.
Can you share something about the impact that had on you? Is it okay to talk about that?
Yeah. I mean, I was going to do some of that later, but I can do a little bit of it now.
Entirely up to you, my friend.
So Dad left home when I was 1. So he was never around much when I was a kid, and we used to go over quite a lot. Once he moved to America, he married an American lady. I've got a half brother in America, and and it was okay. It was okay. I started, you know, he struggled we struggled to connect, you know. He liked the fact that I played guitar, so that was his thing that he homed in on. And when I did become a Christian, when I started walking with Jesus, that he really struggled with that, you know. And so that kind of, for a while, kind of became a bit of a wedge between us. And again, you know, it was the guitar stuff that he really homed in on. So when we went to see him, I'd take my guitar along with me to America, and he would invite all the neighbours around so that I could do a little concert for them, you know. And I always had to do Candle in the Wind. I hate that. You know, that's anyway. You know, so, but we did, you know, it was one of those things where we did start to kind of, I don't know, work on our relationship, heal our relationship, I guess. I remember the last time we went to see him in America. I remember it was about June, July time, throwing it down with rain. They were having an awful kind of summer, and I just remember Dad wanted to do this barbecue, And I have this image, this lasting image of my dad standing on the porch out the back of the house with an umbrella and a gin and tonic and this fish on fire in front of him, you know. And I just remember after it, you know, we went through a lot as a family. My kid sister died when she was 20, and Dad could never get his head around that. You know, if there is a God, it's one of those, if there's a God, how does all this kind of stuff happen? Which is a question that comes up time and time again, you know. And, you know, we were having all these sort of talks, you know, after we sat around the kitchen table and having this talk, and he said, you know, well, one thing, he says, I do love your music. I do love your music. And I remember once we did a conference. We were part of a conference. Our church did a conference at Wembley Conference Centre in London. And Dad kind of, you know, that was his thing, you know. So he would tell all his mates that this is my son. He's played at Wembley. You know, well, yeah, sort of.
Yeah.
You know, and this, you know, we kind of struggle like that. But he told me. This was the last time I saw him. He said, you know, I used to play the piano, and I'd never seen him touch an instrument. I said, no. Did you? He said, yeah. I played at the Albert Hall once. I said, really? He said, yeah. And he said, yeah, when I was a kid, I was in a band with Roger Daltrey. And I found out that he did play at the Albert Hall, and I've never found out about Roger Daltrey. So there you go.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Amazing. Does everyone know who Roger Daltrey is? Wow. There's a few heads shaking. Yeah, he was the lead singer with The Who. Yeah, one of the biggest bands of the 60s. And, an amazing singer. All right, Rob, thank you for that.
I'll say more later.
Yeah, I know you can say more about that later. That's part one, if you like. What I plan to do now, if everyone's okay, we can continue straight on. I want to do the second half of Mariam's story. And then Rob will probably do a 5-minute comfort break, and then Rob will come back, and I'll be off the stage. I won't be asking any questions. He will just be playing his songs. I think you can do more songs from Standing on the Edge, the latest album, or
yeah.
A mix of those. Yeah. So that's the plan. So give Rob a big round of applause and his guitars. All right, and here comes Mariam again. Give her another big round of applause. Yeah. It's just great to hear real life stories. This is truth. This is something that cannot be denied. These are people's experiences. People who have experienced the love of God. And, you know, we've heard already about the unconditional love of God. We've heard about the ability of God to forgive. And we've heard about the hope that comes with that. But there has to be repentance. There has to be a turnaround. Don't think you can just go on the way you are when you were ignoring God, you didn't want to know anything about him. But if I can get that free pass into heaven, and I'll say, yeah, hey, I'm a Christian, right? Forgive me. No. It has to be life-changing. And what you've heard is stories of life-changing experience with Jesus. And all of us who are Christians, who are born-again Christians, we've all had that experience. Some more gradual, as Rob's explained, and some more instantaneous. And there's probably everything in between, but there will come a point where you realize that you have to know Jesus personally. And you have to turn away from your own ways, and you've got to come back to him. So with that, I'm going to come back to Mariam. And it was great to hear about the story that took you as a young girl from Iraq through refugee camp, your dad having a gun put at his head, you know, you having a gun put at your head, to being accepted miraculously into Australia, growing up in Australia, and then the rebellious streak in you came out.
Yes.
And you know, I feel for Curtis. He's still trying to deal with that one, but. No, so now you're kind of, you've left school. You're a teenager in Australia.
Yeah.
You're rebelling. Tell us a little bit about life and what happened then.
So, like I said earlier, I wanted to experience the world apart from faith. You know, I wanted to do things without any kind of accountability. You know,
Yeah.
I didn't want to be told what was good for me and not good for me, what was right, what was wrong. And so I just kind of went into the world and, you know, did the party thing and did the teenage life thing, you know. And in that process, finding myself further and further and further away from God. In fact, anything that would come up of faith or of God, I would literally want to put my fingers into my ears.
Yeah. Don't want to hear this.
So it got to a point where I'd come home and I didn't want to be around my parents because I just saw them as like these super Christian parents that just don't understand. You know, they just don't get me. They don't get it. And so, you know, I would say also, kind of like Rob, it wasn't like one moment, it was kind of a series of things that happened that kind of led me to surrendering.
Right.
So there was lots of things that happened, but it's because, like I said earlier, I knew the truth. I knew what I'd been taught. It was in there, but it was almost like I was just shutting it out. I wanted to just block it out. And I often used to say this thing where I'd say, you know, one day, maybe when I get married or when I'm older, then I'll kind of walk that walk. Because I knew that was the right thing to do. But I just wasn't ready to do that. Because it meant I'd have to give things up. I'd have, you know, following Christ, it requires something. It requires something of us. And like you said, it's a moment where you go, I'm not going to live this way anymore. I'm going to turn around. I'm going to turn away from the way I'm living, and I'm going to look to Christ. And I'm going to follow him and follow his way and do things the way he's designed and the way he's said. But I wasn't ready for that. And so I lived a number of years from 18, 19, to even up into my early 20s like that. You know, not wanting anything to do with God.
It's interesting to me because a lot of people think that if you become a Christian, then you have to give up a lot of good things. I've got to give up all these good things, and I want to hang on to these good things. So maybe I'll think about that later when I've done all these good things.
And that's the problem, because I had it wrong. In my mind, I had it wrong. I thought I had to clean everything up. I thought I had to stop doing this and stop doing that, and then I'll go to Jesus once I've sorted myself out. But it's the other way around.
Correct.
You know, he wants us to come in that state, in that very state that we are, and he does the cleaning. He does the, you know, the work in us. But we've just got to come. And that's what he says. He says, "Draw near to me, and I'll draw near to you." And you know, he's just waiting. When are you going to draw? That was the moment for me. Like, when am I going to draw near to him?
Yeah, I think some people hang on to this rebellious state. I often watch Frank Turek, Dr. Frank Turek, who was cross-examined. And he says, if you say to someone, if Christianity were true, would you become a Christian? And often the answer is no. So even though they recognize that Christianity is true, they're still not willing to leave that state of rebellion and bow the knee, if you like, to come to Christ. And that amazes me. I still find that incredible, that people can recognize truth and say, yeah, but I don't want that. I prefer to live in the lie.
That's right.
So,
yes.
Anyway, so you continue. You found the truth.
So, and then, you know, there would be times in life where I would feel like I was struggling and I was down or depressed. And in those moments, I would go to church.
Right.
I would go with my family. I'd turn up because I thought, I know where I need to be. I know what I need to do. But I'd only go there when I was miserable or I was down in the dumps. And every time I'd go, I'd think, yes, this is where I want to be. This is what I want to be doing. And then I'd find myself slipping back. It was a constant back and forth. In my early 20s, it was a constant back and forth of me, you know, I want to do this thing, but my flesh was weak. I couldn't commit. I just couldn't find myself committing to a life of following Jesus. And I just kept going back and forth and back and forth. And then there was a moment, I would say this maybe was part of the moment when I decided, you know, that I'm going to stop everything. Well, not stop everything, but I'm going to commit my my life and my heart really to Jesus is when I wouldn't say I was in a terrible place, but I felt like I was in a place where I just felt void. I felt like there was that emptiness.
Yeah.
I was doing everything I wanted to do, or I thought I wanted to do. I was doing all the things I wanted to do, feeling free to do whatever I wanted to do, and I thought I was happy, but I wasn't happy because I was empty. There was still a void.
Yeah.
And I was cleaning out one of my drawers, and I came across a book that I'd stashed in there from a couple of years before. And I saw the title, and it said The Purpose-Driven Life, and I thought, oh, purpose, okay, yeah, let's see what this is going to say. So I opened it, and the very first page said, it's not about you.
Yeah.
And I thought, what? Because I was selfish, everything was about me and how I felt and what I wanted, and nobody's going to tell me what to do. But as I read that statement, I wanted to read on, and it went on, and it was a Christian book, and it went on to say that I was created for a purpose. I was created for God. I wasn't created for myself. I wasn't created for another person. I wasn't created to be in a certain career or have a certain job or have a certain thing. I was created for God. And honestly, in that moment, it was almost like everything was kind of in front of me. All the things in my life was just there, like in front of my eyes, like a vision. And I thought, whoa, I've been living life with a totally wrong view. I've been living so selfishly and doing anything I wanted to do, but actually I wasn't placed here for me. I was placed here for God.
Wow.
I was placed here for Him,
Yeah.
and for His desire, for His purposes, because He has purposes for us, and He's created us for a reason.
Yeah.
And if you could say that was a turning moment for me, where I wanted to turn. I wanted to turn from the life I was living and turn to Him, because I realized this is my purpose. I was empty, I was void. What is my purpose? This is my purpose. I was made for God. I was made for Him.
Yeah. There must have been some confusion, because you've recognized that the way you were living selfishly wasn't the way to be. Now you've realized that the way you should be living is to live for God.
Yeah.
But what did that mean to you? What did that mean in practical terms? What was the change that came about at that point of recognition?
It was almost like a burden was lifted, because I didn't have to have everything figured out. I didn't have to have my life sorted. I didn't have to have myself cleaned up and myself fixed. But I knew that coming to Him, and if I'm made for Him, and if He's got a purpose for me, and He created me for a purpose, then it was like a moment where I realized that I just need to come to Him, and I know He's going to do the rest. I know
He will reveal that.
He will reveal the rest. He will sort the rest out. And that was a moment of repentance. That's where I genuinely broke down. I remember crying. It was too emotional. It was sorrow, because I felt so sorrowful for the way I was living, but I was full of joy. I was crying happy tears. I was full of joy, because I knew that even though I was rebellious, even though I didn't want anything to do with God, even though I was living the way I was living, I still knew that God created me for Him, and He still wanted me. He didn't look at me like, I don't want anything to do with you. He still, wanted me.
Yeah.
And so that really, did something in my heart in that moment where I wanted to turn.
How old would you be at that point in time?
I was about 23,
Right.
24, early 20s.
Okay, I'm going to fast forward a little bit here, just with time constraints. But I'm really intrigued to know how you came to meet a big Geordie fireman from Newcastle while you're living in Melbourne, Australia.
Yeah.
How did that come about? And maybe then you can tell us a little bit more about the relationship and where it's gone.
So I got stronger in my faith, and I did. I committed. I was going back and forth for so long, but this time, this was it. I was walking the walk now, not just doing the talk. And I committed my life to Christ. And there came a period of time, a couple of years after I was born again and saved, and there came a time where I was struggling with some health issues. And I remember I was trying to find prayer anywhere I could get it. I would go to church and I'd ask everyone to pray for me. I was asking my family, anybody, just to pray for me, because I was desperate for prayer. And someone mentioned this prayer site, this prayer app, and they said, if you really want prayer, there's loads of people that'll pray for you online. Just go on this site. And so I went on this site. I'm not going to promote this site because I've heard it's gone really weird now, so I won't even say what it's called. But it was a Christian prayer site. It was a prayer app. And I downloaded this app, and I went on it, and I posted my prayer request. I said, I'm struggling with some health issues. Just please keep me in your prayers. And there was thousands and thousands of thousands of people on this site. And there was like a button that you'd click pray. So if you wanted to pray for someone, you'd click the pray button.
Right.
And there was hundreds of people clicking this pray button on my prayer request. And a couple of weeks later, I think it was about 2 weeks later, I received a message, and it said, "Hi, I'm just checking in on you. I know you posted a prayer request a couple of weeks ago. Just wanted to know how you are." And thankfully, and praise God, things had turned out really well, and God had healed the issue in my life. So that was a miracle, and that was amazing. And I said to this person, it's great, and I shared it. And mind you, I didn't have a picture on there. There was nothing really about me on there. Yeah. In fact, even my username wasn't my name. It was like Proverbs or something.
So this person didn't know that you were a female as opposed to a male?
No, at that point, no. Right. No,
okay.
at that point.
All right.
And then fast forward, we became prayer friends. This person and I continued to pray for each other because we established this prayer friendship, and we thought, let's just pray for each other. Yeah. And so we would send each other prayer requests, so they would pray for me and I would pray for them, and it was a daily thing. And then fast forward, sometime later, come to find out, this person from the UK, and they find out I'm from Australia, and we added each other onto WhatsApp, and that was kind of the first time we saw each other, picture of each other, and that was Curtis. Yeah. Wow. So he was praying for me from the opposite side of the world, and I was praying for him, and that's how we met.
Well, that really was an answer to Curtis's prayer. Because when he saw your picture, he'd been praying for a beautiful dark-haired girl, and God said, "Don't worry, Curtis, I've got that in hand. It's coming now." Yeah. So you then see each other, and you have.
We met. Well, we spoke for quite a while. We spoke for a while. Then we did the whole. It was Skype at the time, like the video calling Skype. Yeah. So we really got to know each other, just from communicating, just from praying and talking to each other, and that was going on for some time. And then, from his perspective, it will be a different story, but he felt he needed to come and meet me in person, and he flew to Australia and met me in person, and the rest happened. Yes. It was history from there. Yeah.
How did the arrival of this big, and he is big, anybody who cannot see Curtis, he's a big guy. How did the arrival of this big Geordie in your house go down with the parents then? Yeah.
Well, he'll tell you. I mean, you've just heard my backstory. I've come from a very traditional family. Yeah. So, I'd never brought anyone home, never brought a guy home. And so I had told my parents beforehand, I've met this guy from the UK, and you can imagine the face, like the expression that I got. But I told them the whole story from start to that point. And my dad said, "Bring him over. I have peace about it. Bring him over." And I was not expecting that response at all. Right. But Curtis was terrified. He was absolutely terrified to meet my dad. But honestly, he came over and he met my family, and he says he felt absolutely welcomed, and they knew that God's hand was on this. They knew that there was something in it. So much so that my dad asked him on the very first day, "So Curtis, what's your plan? What are your plans?" Then and there, directly. Yeah. And he said, "Well, I'm going to marry her." So, yeah.
Wow. And when did you get married?
2016.
2016.
Yeah.
Okay.
2016.
Yeah. And how did you feel?
Family.
There you go. How did you feel about, and how did the family feel about you leaving Australia and coming on your own
You know, it's
with your new husband to live in Newcastle?
it's crazy because I used to always say I don't understand these people that meet someone from another country and just move. And then there I was, you know, I met
Yeah.
someone
Yeah.
and I was moving. So they were sad, but at the same time they knew it was the
Yeah,
right
that's
thing to
right.
do. They
Yeah.
knew, you know, this is of God. You can do it.
Yeah.
You can go, you know,
Yeah.
go for it. And so I had
Yeah.
full support from every
Yeah.
single member of my family, which is
Yeah.
a big family.
Yeah.
And
Amazing.
yeah, loads of things with our story as
Yeah.
well, which we
Yeah.
don't have time to get
Yeah.
into all the details.
Well, we can do another session. We'll have another time to get into the rest of it, and we'll maybe get Curtis involved as well for that one. But you now have 3 gorgeous children,
Yes.
and you went through the whole thing. You pastored a church. You set up a church
Yeah.
in Gosforth, and now I'm delighted that you know, you actually work here with us at the
Yes.
church, looking after the
Yeah.
children's ministry, and we love you and we love what you do, and we're excited about the future.
Yeah.
And the same goes for Curtis. We're excited about what God's doing with him and his life too. So yeah, I want to thank you for that, Mariam. That's really a fascinating story, and it's really encouraging and uplifting, and just shows you know what God can do if you are open to Him. If you want to follow Him, then He will give you your best life, the purpose that you have been created for. So give Mariam a round of applause. Thanks, Mariam. All right. 5 minutes. Curtis, sorry, Sean will put some video music on for 5 minutes, just for a comfort break if anybody needs to use the facilities. And then after that, Rob will come back, and I'll leave him to do his thing, and we'll hear some great songs. Thanks. set from Rob will start in approximately 2 minutes. You've got 2 minutes. Everything that's gone before, and I'm grateful that you're all here to hear this, and for those of you who are watching online, I hope you're being as blessed wherever you are as we are here listening to Rob and Mariam's stories. I'm now going to hand over to Rob, who will take us through to the end of the session. So Rob, we're looking forward to hearing from you. Off you go. Thanks.
Sky's on fire. The shepherd says tomorrow there'll be sun. But for now, the storms are done. And I've climbed to touch the clouds that chase after the sun. And I'm standing on the edge of something beautiful tonight. Don't know where I'll be standing come the morning, come the light. And there's no way I can tell you if the future's looking bright. But I'm standing on the edge of something beautiful tonight. Road is winding, and it's been paved with my laughter and tears. But for now, I rest my fears, and I'm standing on the edge of something beautiful tonight. I don't know where I'll be standing come the morning, come the light. There's no way I can tell you if the future's looking bright. But I'm standing on the edge of something beautiful tonight. When I come down, well, I pray to God in heaven I can keep what I have found. 'Cause in this world it's hard to find your feet. and I'm standing on the edge of something beautiful tonight. Don't know where I'll be standing come the morning, come the light. And there's no way I can tell you if the future's looking bright. And I'm standing on the edge of something beautiful tonight. Well, I'm standing on the edge of something beautiful tonight. Thank you very much. So I like to say, my name's Rob Halligan and I'm not a country singer. Despite wearing a hat like this. This is actually Australian. And the boots, there is a story about the boots. Have I told you the boots story before here? I might tell you. But yeah. And I've been doing this tour. We've just done a whole load of dates up in Scotland. We were in north of Inverness about 2 days ago, and then we've kind of worked our way down. So we're all a bit jet lagged, and as you come down, your ears pop, you know? It's a bit like that, but we had a fantastic time. And the tour has been called Standing on the Edge. And over the last sort of couple of albums that I've done, I sing a lot about journeys because I really, you know, that seems to be something that we all connect with. Yeah, we're all on this journey, whether it's a physical journey or a faith journey or just life's journey and everything. And I sing a lot about that. Standing on the edge, we've been through some stuff over, me and Jean have been through some stuff over the last few years, and we've kind of found ourselves kind of in the middle of stuff. And what I mean is something's ended and we're not sure what's next, you know. And I don't know if you've ever been in that kind of situation, you know. And a lot of the songs that I've sang sort of over the last few years have been very retrospective, kind of looking back at life, you know. And now it's like it's slowly moving on, and it's like, okay, so what's next? What's next? And learning to trust God in that. And so yeah, this is one of those kind of moment songs that I did a tour in Nashville. Yeah, I'm a proper musician. Yeah, we went to Nashville. I'll tell you the boot story. I went to Nashville with a friend of mine, Bill. He's a drummer. He lives in America. And if you've ever been to Nashville, it is like this. The high street is kind of full of these honky-tonk bars with the most amazing music and musicians playing in them. And then you get about 3 or 4 of these bars, and then you get a boot shop. And these aren't shoe shops, they are boot shops. Has anybody been to Nashville and see this? They're amazing. They are, I mean, they're 3 times as long as this room, and they are floor to ceiling with the most amazing boots. Okay, we were kind of going from bar to bar, looking at all the music and the bands and everything. And we got to this boot shop, went in this boot shop, and I found this pair of boots. And they were so nice. They were the most comfortable pair of boots, and I put them on, and I was walking around thinking, hey, I like these. And then I looked at the price. And I thought, if I get these boots, my wife will kill me, you know? And Bill came over, he says, hey, Gov, what's up? I says, that's the boots, man. He says, man, you rock them boots. They are cool boots. I said, yeah, but look at the price. And he went, whoa. And he said, well, let's go next door. We'll get a drink, and you can come back here and get the boots. And then, you know. So we went next door. We watched a band. We had a drink. And then we got in the car, and we went. And the next day, and we didn't go back to the boot shop, and I didn't get the boots. Thank you. Feel my pain. And the next day, we're driving along, and we're going to the next town. And I looked a bit glum, and Bill said, hey, Gov, what's up? And I said, I didn't get the boots. He says, oh, man, you can write a song about it. So I did. I wrote a song called The Boots I Never Wore. But it's interesting how the boots, you know, the story came about, you know. But
The Boots I Never Wore, we filmed a video of it. I worked with a charity called Global Care. And Global Care is one of the reasons I do, or not, no, it's not one of the reasons I do what I do, but one of the things that I like to do is make a difference with music. And Global Care are this organisation that I met, 20 years ago. And they work with vulnerable kids. They're a Christian charity that works with vulnerable kids across the world. And I got to go to, I've been to Bangladesh with them, and I've been to Ethiopia, and we went to Lebanon when the Syrian war was happening, and we went to the kind of Syria, the border with Syria, and there were these refugee camps, a bit, just like you were describing. And what Global Care were doing is, while the war was on, in order so that the kids could still get their education, we were setting up shack schools. So these kids could still go to school in the refugee camp and receive an education that was, it was with their curriculum kind of thing, but run by Christians as well. And it was an amazing experience to go to this place. And on the way back from this trip, we were filming the trip for the charity, and on the way back, the guy who was with us from the charity says, "Hey, we've got a camera here, Rob. You could do a music video." And so we stopped in the mountains in Lebanon and found this bombed-out old shelter, and I started, we picked this song, "The Boots I Never Wore," and as I'm singing this song, this guy appears, and he's got all the traditional kind of garb on, the dress, and do you know what I mean? And he stood there like this. And he didn't look very happy. And so I stopped playing, and I jumped down, and I held out my hand to him, to say hello. And he broke into the hugest grin. And I said, "Is this okay?" And he just said, "Thank you." And I thought that was lovely. So we carried on filming, and another guy appeared, dressed the same, but this time this guy had about 200 sheep following him. And they were Bedouins, and they lived up in the mountains looking after the sheep, And when we finished, they invited us back to their tent, but we couldn't go because we were running out of time. So as we got back in the car, loading things up into the car, just getting back into the car, and he came over to me, and he had a sheep. And he gave me the sheep. And I held the sheep. And I said to our guide, "He's given me a sheep." And he says, "Yes, you're very lucky. He wants you to have it." I thought, great. What do I do with this sheep? He said, "Well, you can't take it on the plane." I said, "No." He says, "Ask him to look after it." So I did. And so I have a sheep in Lebanon. So how cool is that? Anyway, that was the video to "The Boots I Never Wore." But while I thought I'd sing this because just hearing your story and the kind of refugee thing, I met a little boy who told me his story, and there were certain things that you said that just rang true. And there are refugees all over the world, and Jesus was a refugee, and in Lebanon, where we were, you can see Mount Hermon at the end of the range of mountains. And if you know the psalm, how good and pleasant it is when people, brothers, live together in unity. It's like the dew from Mount Hermon, because there the Lord commands a blessing. And if we learn to live together in love, then we know God's blessing. Grew up on the south side, Dad was known around the town. Stood for what he believed in, he was a hard man to keep down. When he called the men together to make a stand, they gathered round. But the soldiers came and they quickly cut them down. Well, the news, it reached us quickly, so we packed up and hit the road.
In our rush to leave, we left what precious things we owned. Driving through the night, we said goodbye to all we'd known, as we headed for a strange land far from home. And the morning sun still hides behind the mountain. She don't break till she's safely on her own, marking off the days that she's been counting, living in the shadow of our home. Well, I'm proud of where I came from, and I'm proud of who I am. But there's many I'm not proud to say are my fellow countrymen, 'cause they stripped away her beauty with their greedy, crooked hands, and they left her as a scarred and barren land. But the morning sun still hides behind the mountain. She don't break till she's safely on her own, marking off the days that she's been counting, living in the shadow of our home. Well, they say that there's a blessing in the dew on Herman's Heights, like the blessing that men get when they come together to unite. Well, Herman, won't you look down from those lofty highest heights, send your dew and bring us peace tonight. And the morning sun still hides behind the mountain. She don't break till she's safely on her own, marking off the days that she's been counting, living in the shadow of our home. And the morning sun still hides behind the mountain. She don't break till she's safely on her own, marking off the days that she's been counting, living in the shadow of our home. Oh, living in the shadow of our home. Don't recall when we first met. You took the opportunity to get what you could get. You made me feel like I could fly, then walked away when I came crashing from the sky. You took me for a ride, but now things have changed. I seen the light. 'Cause I went down to the river to pray. I knew just what I had to say. The chains I had, they fell away, and I left them in the water. The lies that you made me believe, your forked tongue and your flattery, your poison words that blinded me, well, I left them in the water. Well, it's my fault I took your hand. I guess I was naive, and I guess you had a plan. You promised me the city lights, then left me searching for a reason to my life. You really took me in, but that's history, so I'll start again. I went down to the river to pray. I knew just what I had to say. The chains I had, they fell away, and I left them in the water. The lies that you made me believe, your forked tongue and your flattery, your poison words that blinded me, well, I left them in the water. When I see the water rise, I see the things I left behind, and I feel like I can fly. Yeah, 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 yeah. I left them in the water, and I went down to the river to pray. I knew just what I had to say. The chains I had, they fell away, and I left them in the water. The lies that you made me believe, your forked tongue and your flattery, your poison words that blinded me, well, I left them in the water. 'Cause I went down to the river to pray. I left them in, I left it in the water. Thank you very much. So, one of the things that happened after 9/11 was that it was interesting. My dad's name was Bob, and Bob Halligan, and my name's Robert, so, you know, same name. There is, in New York, in a place called Syracuse in New York, there is a Christian singer-songwriter called Bob Halligan. Two of us. Isn't the world a lucky place? And yeah, Bob started getting some emails after 9/11 because his name had appeared on the list of people that, you know, so people were just checking him to see if he was okay. And of course he was. And shortly after that, there was a friend of ours who's a music journalist, went to Nashville to one of these kind of award ceremonies, and he bumped into Bob. And he said, "Oh, this is interesting. I've got a friend in the UK, same name as you, does the same job." And so we kind of ended up getting in touch with each other and finding out a little bit about each other. And Bob's a little bit older than me, but we decided we would do some touring together, you know, just because it sounded good. And he's brilliant. He's a fantastic musician, incredible songwriter. He's, like I say, he's a little bit older than me. He's written for people like Michael Bolton, yeah, and Cher. Who else has he written for? Judas Priest, yeah, and Kiss, yeah. See, lots of wolves. Have you heard of any of these people? Good, just checking, you know, because, you know, I mean, Eric Morecambe, you've got to go and Google him. Anyway. So, and it's really cool. If I go to Bob's house, in his basement, he has his kind of man cave with his pinball machine and his music stuff and everything. And he has all these gold and platinum records on the wall with my name on. Anyway, we thought we'd do a song together, and Bob helped me write this, and it's called Small World. When I was a boy, I used to think that the world was a big old place, and the road out of town was only meant for the strong and the brave. I spent my days in a world of make-believe, where I was a hero with a beautiful queen, and the bad guy would run a mile at the sound of my name. And the news on the TV just seemed like a movie with a cast I would never know, running fast through the streets with the sound of a beat of a city I would never go. And there was fire in the sky and a glint in the eye of the guy who would get the girl that was a life away in another world. But yeah, it was a small world, small world, small world. Yeah, it's a small world, small world, small world. Well, Dad took a job and a wife, and he chased the American dream, oh, taking his life right to the other side of the world. So I took a flight and I followed him right to the skyscraper city with his music and lights. The life of my boyhood dreams crashed into my world. And yes, it was a small world, small world, small world. It was a small world, small world, small world. And then the news on the TV, it seemed like a movie as I searched for a face that I knew. Running fast with the crowds from the dust and the clouds through the streets that I'd been to. There was fire in the sky and dust in the eyes, the whole world seemed to stall. Less than a heartbeat away when I saw it fall. Was a small world, small world. Small world, small world. My dad had told me that I'd go far with the songs that I had and my guitar. Now I had something to say about the things I'd seen. So I took these songs of a bigger love. I found new friends and a namesake brother in the life that we could share with the songs we sang. It was a small world, small world. A small world, small world. Does anybody know what the first ever song they played on Radio 1 was? Flowers in the Rain. Yeah, it's a good pub question, that, isn't it? Pub quiz. I'm just sitting watching flowers in the rain, feel the flower of the rain, making my garden grow. By The Move. The reason I know that is that one time when we went over to America, my dad had just bought a new car. He bought a Toyota Avalon, and we lived in New Jersey, and I remember driving along Route 78 after he bought it, and he was really chuffed with it, you know. All these lights on the dashboard, looked like a spacecraft, you know. And he turned the radio on, and that song came on the radio. And he started singing along really badly. You know?
And then he leaned over, he turned it down, and he says, Robert, you know something? This was the first song they ever played on Radio 1. And I went, oh. And then he turned it back up and carried on singing along badly, you know. And last year sometime, I was driving along and I was listening to Greatest Hits Radio. And Flowers in the Rain came on. And do you ever have that thing when a song comes on and you are taken back to a time or a place? You know, a song comes on and you think, oh, you close your eyes and you're there. You know, you just remember something. They just played that song about the flowers and the rain. I closed my eyes and I saw you again, with that spark in your eye, your mischievous grin. You're strange, what a song can do. Now I'm in the back of that old Avalon on Route 78. We're moving along. You reach down and turn the radio on. Strange what a song can do. It's true, I regret that we ran out of time. There's things I would say if I was still by your side. But I found a way in these chords and these rhymes. I found a way back to you. The DJ says this one will never grow old. He's got no idea how this music will hold to a moment in time that's more precious than gold. It's strange what a song can do. It's true, I regret that we ran out of time. There's things I would say if I was still by your side. I found a way in these chords and these rhymes. I found a way back to you. When I hear Carl sing those opening lines, I see the land of my childhood pass by. And you're joining in badly, but that's all alright. It's strange what a song can do. Thank you. Shortly after 9/11, I went down to Coventry Cathedral. We live in Coventry, and if you've ever been to the cathedral, anybody been to Coventry Cathedral? It's an incredible place. It was the old cathedral was destroyed in the Blitz, and it became a centre of reconciliation. Coventry pioneered, and it was right at the forefront of kind of healing relationships between the UK and Germany, and particularly Dresden, which was kind of bombed in retaliation and absolutely wiped out. It was, you know, but the provost in charge of the cathedral at the time, he said, no, you know, this is not the way to do this. We need reconciliation. We need healing of relationships. It really is an amazing place. And shortly after 9/11, I went down to the cathedral, and they've got the old burnt cross at the front of the cathedral, the old cathedral, which is made from the timbers of the roof when it was bombed. And behind it, it says, Father, forgive. And I remember going down there, you know, trying to work out where God was in all of this, and seeing that Father, forgive behind it and thinking, God, what? it's kind of like this is where the rubber hits the road and your faith when things like this happens. You know what I mean? It's very easy to talk about being a Christian, but when things happen and your faith is tested and you're thinking, God, where are you in all of this? But I remember thinking, you know, going through all of this stuff and thinking, okay, I've been a Christian for 10 years now. Do I really believe that there's a God? Because if all this stuff in this world happens like this, can I believe this? And I thought, you know, there's no way I can't believe. There is no way that I have to believe that there's a God. I can't switch that off. So then it was, okay, so do I believe then that this God is some kind of monster, some kind of megalomaniac or ambivalent to all the suffering and stuff that we go through? Or do I think that God is a God of love? Do I think God is love? Do I think that he loves us and cares for us? And I don't know, through evidence in my own life and stuff that I've seen God do in my life and stuff, and just because something inside says, there's no way I can think God is anything but a loving God that wants the best for us. It doesn't always explain why kind of things get messed up and we mess things up and all of that, but God is a God of love. And so then I thought, okay, if I believe all that, do I believe that God is bigger, that love is bigger than all of this crap and this mess that we see in the world around us? And yeah, I really do. I really do. And we live in dark days, you know. If you look at the news, it kind of can be really depressing, can't it? But God is so much bigger than that. And this song's a little bit different because I as a bit of a thing for one of the anniversaries, I started writing a musical based around the events of 9/11, and there was a character in this musical, and he was a vicar, and he was kind of talking to the protagonist who had gone through some stuff similar to me, and kind of similar kind of story, I guess. In my ears I've seen a lot of pain, more suffering than anyone could bear. Question the very root of my faith, and I've wondered if God is really there. In all my experience and learning and my life, I could never hope to prove anything other than my choice to believe there is a God and he is love. And love is bigger than the storms of hatred, and love is bigger than the mountains of grief, and love is bigger than the towers of anger, and love is bigger than me. And I've seen battles and I've seen wars. I've seen the ties that bind us burn. I know the anguish when we fall, and each day I pray that we could finally learn that love is bigger than the storms of hatred, and love is bigger than the mountains of grief, and love is bigger than the towers of anger, and love is bigger than me.
darkness of a black sky. There are pinpricks of starlight, and the weakness of a small child melts the cold heart of stone. I've seen peace where there's been trouble, and I've seen darkness drown in light. And in my heart I've heard a whisper, louder than the noise of strife, that love is bigger than the storms of hatred, and love is bigger than the mountains of grief, and love is bigger than the towers of anger, and love is bigger than me. Thank you. How are we doing? I have no idea what time you want me to finish. I can keep going. I mean, what do you want me to do? 10 minutes. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah.
8:30 finish?
Sorry?
An 8:30 finish?
Okay. Yeah. That's cool. Lovely. I'm going to do my hit. This was on radio too. Woo. Once. Yeah. So, okay, well, here's what you can do, okay? You know, if you go to see a band that you've actually heard of, and they launch into their big hit, and everybody goes, yes, it's the big hit, and they don't have to announce that it's their big hit, you know, they just start playing it, and it kind of, you know, and everybody thinks, oh, I know this, and they go, yeah, because it's the big hit. When I start playing this, can you pretend you know what it is? Is that all right? And then we'll kind of have a bit of a gig and it'll be great, yeah? Is that okay? Fantastic. Great. Jolene, no, it's not that. I will build for you a road. I'll lay the tar, I'll break the stone. I'll dig the dirt up golden brown until the road has been laid down. But I can't make you walk. No, I can't make you walk. And I will make for you a path through the woods to green grass, across the moorland and the down that takes you on to higher ground. Oh, but I can't make you walk. No, I can't make you walk. That's up to you. I'll build a stair for you to climb, close to heaven's highest heights, far above the darkest clouds and the storms of life itself. No, but I can't make you walk. No, I can't make you walk. That's up to you, yeah. But I can't make you, I can't make you walk. No, 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 I can't make you, I can't make you walk. Okay, can I have the Chowdene choir now? If you could sing that with me. I can't make you, I can't make you walk. Beautiful. And again. No, I can't make you, I can't make you walk. Lovely. Can you keep that going? 2, 3, go. I will lead you on your way and lead the darkness into day and whisper gently in your ear words that chase away your fear, and I can help you dream of things that make you want to live again. And I will even hold your hand and give you strength to make you stand. But I can make you, I can make you walk. No, 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 I can make you, I can make you walk. Last time. Whoa, yeah, I can make you, I can make you walk. That's up to you. Hey, thank you very much. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been really lovely coming back here, and I love what you've done with the place. Goodness. I don't know how long ago it was when I first came here. I mean, that's going back some, isn't it? And it's been quite a journey. This is my 20th year of doing this as a job. And I gave up my real job after I lost my dad, because I truly believe that, well, I felt that I had something to say. And I think that is that God and love is bigger. Like I said, it is so much bigger. And our job, we have all of this in front of us. We have it all laid out. The road has been built. We've got what we need. We've got the love of God. We've got the Holy Spirit. We've got it. We can make a difference if our hearts are opened up in welcome, wide enough to receive, wide enough to give the love of God. And sometimes that means preaching, sometimes that means teaching, but it just means being open and welcoming and generous and giving ourselves. So, I'm going to finish with this. Because God's heart is so big. Bring them all in, bring them all in, bring them all in, bring them all in, bring them all into my heart. Bring them all in, bring them all in, bring them all in, bring them all in, bring them all into my heart. Bring the little fishes, bring the sharks, bring them from the brightness, bring them from the dark, yeah. Bring them all in, bring them all in, bring them all in, bring them all in, bring them all into my heart. Bring them all in, bring them all in, bring them all in, bring them all in, bring them all into my heart. Bring them from the caverns, bring them from the heights, bring them from the shadows, oh, stand them in the light. Bring them all in, bring them all in, bring them all in, bring them all in, bring them all into my heart. Bring them all in, bring them all in, bring them all in, bring them all in, bring them all into my heart. Bring them out of purdah, bring them out of store, bring them out of hiding, got 'em at the door. Bring 'em all in, bring 'em all in, bring 'em all in, bring 'em all in, bring 'em all into my heart. Bring 'em all in, bring 'em all in, bring 'em all in, bring 'em all in, bring 'em all into my heart. Bring 'em all in, 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 bring 'em all into my heart. Bring 'em all in, bring 'em all in, bring 'em all in, bring 'em all in, bring 'em all into my heart. Bring 'em all in, bring 'em all in, bring 'em all in, bring 'em all in, bring 'em all into my heart. Bring the unforgiven, bring the unredeemed, bring the lost and nameless. Let them all be seen. Bring them out of exile. Bring them out of sleep. Bring them to the portal. Lay them at my feet. Bring them all in, bring them all in, bring them all in, bring them all in, bring them all into my heart. Bring 'em all in, bring 'em all in, bring 'em all in, bring 'em all in, bring 'em all into my heart. Bring 'em all in, 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 bring. Bring 'em all in, 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 bring 'em all into my heart. And can I just say, 2 weeks after we got back from America, there was a knock at the door, and it was the postman. And Bill, my mate, had gone back to Nashville to the boot shop, and he bought me the boots.
Thank you, brother. Well, just that was amazing. I love that. I hope you've all been encouraged. There is hope and there is light in this dark world. And his name is Jesus Christ. And you need to know him. If you haven't met him, you need to meet him. Because he loves you and he wants the best for you. Thank you again, Rob. Really appreciate that. Marvelous set. He's got merchandise at the back. You can support him by buying as much as you can. And Mariam, amazing. Yeah, just the truth of the story and what you went through and how it's brought you to us. I'm just thankful God did all of that, because otherwise you wouldn't have been here to be with us, to do what you're doing. So we love you. Thank you for sharing your story, and just God bless you. So we are here every week. There's lots of stuff going on. Check out the website to see more about it, and you're always welcome. Every Sunday, Wednesday drop in, and all the other stuff that goes on here. We want this to be a place where people feel welcome and where everything that happens here is glorifying to God, is pleasing in his sight. That's what we want. So, enjoy the rest of your week. There's tea and coffee downstairs. Sorry, bring them all in. Yeah. Bring them all in, 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 bring them all in into my house. Yeah, I'll remember that one, Rob. Yeah, good. That could be our theme tune. Bring them all in. Okay, thanks everyone. Have a great week. God bless you.